The studio lights glared a little brighter that evening, though maybe it wasn't the bulbs. Maybe it was the collective heartbeat of the millions of viewers who watched live as Denzel Washington sat across from a CBS News anchor, his once commanding baritone voice reduced to a raspy whisper. He shifted in his chair, adjusted the cuffs of his suit jacket, and leaned forward with a quiet intensity that has always been his trademark. Then came the words that instantly froze the room, the cameras, and the audience at home. "I've been diagnosed with terminal vocal cord cancer," he said slowly, his tone broken, yet still carrying that distinct Denzel cadence. "The doctors say I'll lose my voice forever, and I will not survive." A silence fell so heavy it could have been cut with a knife. The man whose voice had delivered unforgettable speeches on screen, who had inspired generations with roles of resilience and fire, was saying goodbye. And not just to acting, not just to Hollywood, but to life itself. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. People have always imagined stars as untouchable, eternal figures in our cultural galaxy. Denzel Washington was one of those rare few whose presence commanded both admiration and love. He wasn't just another actor, he was an institution. His voice had power, not just in movies, but in interviews, commencements, and in those quiet, heartfelt speeches he gave about life, faith, and persistence. To imagine that very voice, his greatest gift, being silenced by disease was almost too much to process. You could see it in the eyes of the anchor sitting opposite him that night, tears being held back by sheer professionalism, knuckles gripping the table, trying desperately not to break. But the words kept coming, and each one cut deeper than the last. What shocked people most was not only the diagnosis but what came after. Instead of letting despair swallow him, Denzel revealed something so unexpected it left both Hollywood and the world stunned. For the past 18 months, in complete secrecy, he had been working with a team of engineers, filmmakers, and AI specialists on a project he called Legacy. Every facial expression, every blink, every breath, every single nuance of his voice had been scanned, captured, and digitally preserved. The goal wasn't vanity, it was permanence. He wanted to leave behind not just films, but his very essence woven into a final cinematic statement. The movie, hidden under wraps to avoid corporate interference, was about a dying revolutionary leader who slowly loses his ability to speak, yet desperately tries to pass on a message to the next generation. In a haunting twist of art imitating life, Denzel was playing his own reality on screen, his performance reconstructed by technology even as his real body weakened. The announcement hit the internet like an earthquake. Within hours, the trailer dropped, and one line from it became instantly iconic. A digitally recreated Denzel, his AI voice carrying that same unmatched gravitas, declared, "You can silence a man's voice, but you can't mute a movement." It spread across social media platforms like wildfire, igniting both applause and debate. Was this a genius move to immortalize art, or a troubling precedent of AI in Hollywood? Celebrities like Viola Davis, Tom Hanks, and Morgan Freeman publicly wept, praising his courage. Fans held virtual vigils, sharing favorite lines from his films, as if rehearsing a goodbye they never wanted to give. Ethicists argued late into the night on talk shows about whether this blurred the line between man and machine, legacy and replication. But amid all the chatter, one truth rang louder than the rest. Denzel Washington had found a way to speak beyond silence. The world clung to updates on his condition after that broadcast, praying for a miracle, or at least for more time. But life, as Denzel himself had often said in interviews, doesn't always give you the script you want. Just days later, word spread that he had completely lost his ability to speak. For a man whose very career had been built on dialogue, monologues, and that magnetic delivery, the silence was deafening. His final communication to the public came not from his lips but from his pen, scrawled on paper with the same precision he once brought to every role. "Let my silence speak louder than ever before," the note read. And in that one line, he turned loss into resonance, absence into presence. Think for a moment about the irony of it all. The man whose cinematic speeches could make an audience of thousands rise to their feet was now asking the world to listen not to his words but to his silence. Isn't that the kind of poetic twist only life, or perhaps a master actor like Denzel, could deliver? It raised questions we don't often ask ourselves. How do we measure a life's worth? Is it in the applause, the awards, the fame? Or is it in the echoes we leave behind in the lives we touched, the ideas we passed on, the love we gave? Denzel's farewell forced us to confront the uncomfortable truth. Even legends fade, but what they leave behind, if carefully crafted, can outlive even the body that carried them. As the news rippled around the globe, people didn't just remember Denzel for his roles, they remembered how those roles made them feel. From the fiery determination in Glory to the disciplined authority in Remember the Titans, from the moral struggle in Fences to the righteous fury in Training Day, his characters weren't just performances. They were lessons. They taught us about leadership, about resilience, about standing tall even when life tried to crush you. And now, in his final act, Denzel himself was embodying those lessons. He wasn't just announcing a diagnosis. He was modeling how to face mortality with courage, creativity, and purpose. Of course, not everyone knew how to react. Fans filled forums and comment sections with personal stories of how his work changed their lives. Some people admitted they didn't even know why they were crying. They just felt as if a pillar of stability in the world had suddenly cracked. Others turned reflective, questioning their own legacies. If Denzel Washington, a man so gifted and so larger than life, could be brought down by something as cruel as cancer, what did that mean for the rest of us? It sparked conversations not only about health but about seizing the moment, about telling the people we love how much they mean to us before it's too late. Isn't it strange how a stranger's tragedy can sometimes make us live more urgently? The entertainment industry predictably went into a frenzy. Studios scrambled to secure the rights to air Legacy on the biggest platforms. The Academy, in an unprecedented move, announced it would prepare a tribute and consider awarding him an honorary Oscar for innovation. Critics lined up to call the project both a daring experiment and a haunting meditation on mortality. Even politicians weighed in, citing Denzel's courage as a reminder that leadership comes in many forms. But amid all the headlines, there was a quiet undercurrent of something far more personal. People weren't just mourning an actor. They were mourning a voice, one that had narrated not only stories on film but also stories in their own lives. And here's where the curiosity deepens. What happens when the film finally premieres? Will audiences embrace the AI recreation as a true extension of Denzel, or will they recoil from the ghostly likeness? Will this change how Hollywood handles the legacies of actors who pass too soon? Could it open a door to digital immortality for performers? Or is this a one-time act of genius that only Denzel could pull off? These questions hang in the air like smoke, waiting for time to clear them. But one thing is certain. Whether or not the film is universally accepted, the attempt itself has already secured Denzel Washington's place not just in cinema history, but in cultural history. In the end, maybe that's the point. Life doesn't promise forever, but it does give us the chance to shape how we are remembered. Denzel, facing the cruelest of diagnoses, chose to face it not with bitterness but with creation. He turned his goodbye into art, his silence into a roar, his mortality into immortality. And isn't that something worth learning from? If he can find a way to turn tragedy into legacy, maybe we can too. Maybe each of us, in our own smaller ways, can leave behind something that whispers to the world even after we're gone. So the next time you hear his voice in a film, whether booming in triumph or breaking in vulnerability, remember that those weren't just lines from a script. They were fragments of a man who understood that every word carries weight, every moment counts, and every goodbye can be turned into a beginning. Let his silence remind you to speak while you can, to love while you can, to create while you can. And when your time comes, may your legacy, like his, echo long after the lights go down.